Live television is built on trust. What you see is supposed to be controlled, filtered, safe. Mistakes can happen, a wrong word, a technical failure, an awkward silence. But there are things live television was never meant to show. Things that were never meant to exist on tape. On a quiet morning in the 1970s during a local news broadcast, something went wrong. Not a malfunction, not an accident. A single moment unfolded live on air. A moment so final, so irreversible that everyone watching understood immediately. This was never meant to happen. What followed would become one of the darkest moments in broadcast history. And for decades, the footage would be locked away, spoken about in whispers, described, but never shown. Because some images aren't just disturbing, they're permanent. In the early 1970s, local television news looked very different. There were no viral clips, no instant replays, no social media outrage. If something aired once, it vanished into memory. And that morning, in Sarasota, Florida, a small television station prepared for another routine broadcast. The program was called Suncoast Digest, a low-budget morning talk show. Local stories, community events, nothing remarkable. Behind the scenes, the crew went through the usual motions. Cameras checked, audio tested, scripts placed neatly on the desk. The anchor sat in her chair. She looked calm, professional. No one watching at home would have noticed anything unusual, but behind the camera, something was wrong. The woman delivering the news had been struggling for a long time. She was intelligent, driven, quietly intense. She wanted to do serious journalism, investigate reporting, stories that mattered. Instead, she found herself reading soft features and light segments day after day. And it was wearing her down. She had spoken openly to co-workers about depression, about feeling invisible, about feeling trapped. She had even made dark jokes, comments that lingered uncomfortably in the room. But no one believed she would act on them, because people rarely do. The broadcast began as normal. The anchor read through the opening lines, her voice steady, controlled. Then she reached the next segment, a story involving a shooting. She paused, and then she said something that made no sense at first. She told viewers that the network would be bringing them the latest in blood and guts. An odd phrase, out of place, almost sarcastic. Those watching might have assumed it was a mistake. Then she reached beneath the desk. What happened next unfolded live, in real time. In front of cameras that did not cut away quickly enough, she took her own life on live television. For a brief moment, confusion filled the room. Viewers struggled to understand what they were seeing. Then the broadcast abruptly ended. The screen went to static. In the control room, chaos erupted. Producers shouted, technicians scrambled to pull the feed, but it was too late. The moment had already gone out live. The woman on screen was Christine Chubbuck. She was 29 years old, and in that instant, viewers understood that they had witnessed something irreversible. What happened next was heard by everyone watching, but should never be replayed.
Presenting the immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news, TV40 presents what is believed to be a telegraphical first.
Christine's death was not entertainment, it was not a spectacle. It was a mental health tragedy, one that exposed how invisible suffering can be, even in public spaces. What makes this moment especially disturbing isn't just the act itself, it's what came before it. Christine Chubbuck was not reckless, she was methodical. Investigators later discovered she had planned the act carefully. She had written a script, prepared her wardrobe, selected the timing. She knew exactly when the cameras would be live, she knew the station's delay system was minimal, she understood television, and she used that knowledge. Even more unsettling, she had reportedly attempted to obtain a gun weeks earlier but was unsuccessful. she did not give up. She waited, and when she finally succeeded, she returned to work as if nothing was different. Smiling, professional, normal. The station never aired the footage again. The tape was immediately seized, locked away. To this day, it's never been publicly released, not leaked, not archived, only described by those who were there. Some say the camera lingered longer than expected. Others say the cut to static was almost instant. But everyone agrees on one thing: the silence afterward was unbearable. Christine survived the initial shock long enough to be taken to a hospital. She died hours later. Her death stunned the country, but the response was restraint. There was no national broadcast, no wall-to-wall coverage. The station issued a brief statement and then the story faded, almost deliberately, because no one knew how to talk about it openly. Mental health wasn't discussed openly in the 1970s, especially not suicide, especially not on television, especially not like this. And so Christine Chubbuck became something else, a legend, a rumor, a forgotten moment in media history. People spoke about the tape as if it were cursed, something you shouldn't see, something that would stay with you. Years later, journalists tried to track it down. Some believed copies existed, others claimed it had been destroyed. Former employees refused interviews. Those who had seen it described it briefly and then stopped. They never went into detail, almost as if they didn't want to relive it, because this wasn't spectacle. It wasn't entertainment. It was a real person reaching the end of something very quiet and very personal, in the most public way possible. And that's what makes it so unsettling. Christine didn't scream, she didn't cry, she didn't hesitate. She delivered the line and acted, as if this too was just another segment. After Christine's death, the station changed protocols. Delays were introduced, security tightened, but it didn't undo what had already happened. Because live television had crossed a line it could never uncross. For the first time, viewers weren't watching a tragedy reported on the news. They were watching the tragedy itself. Unfiltered, unstoppable, and no one could look away in time. Christine Chubbuck's name became a warning, a reminder that live broadcasts are fragile, that behind every polished anchor desk sits a human being, and sometimes the cracks are invisible until it's too late. There are moments in television history that feel unreal, moments that shouldn't exist. Christine Chubbuck's final broadcast was one of them. Not because it was shocking, but because it was quiet, planned, final. The tape still exists somewhere, locked away, hidden. And maybe that's where it should stay. Because some moments weren't meant to be replayed. They were meant to be learned from. Live television shows us the world as it happens. But that morning, it showed something else. What happens when pain goes unnoticed, and when silence lasts too long.